All right, welcome. Today we're going to talk about AOC got some press for some comments she made about the hypocrisy with the Republicans talking about deficit spending. So this is a history that goes way back. I grew up with this idea that Republicans spent less money and they were more responsible from a fiscal standpoint. And if you take a look at it, you start to see that it just isn't the case. It's this old idea that gets thrown around and people give it a lot of credit and follow it and listen to it. But when you break it down, it doesn't happen. So the cycle we've been in is where the Republicans come in and do massive amounts of spending for their ideas. And then they turn around and talk about the Democrats spending too much money and we shouldn't spend any more because the deficit's so big and it's the Democrats' fault. And so once the Republican projects are filled, there's no more money for spending, okay? And that's what AOC is calling out, and we're going to look at her quote in just a minute. So let's take a look at comments made by AOC. So we've got here her quote. "It's absolutely a bad faith argument," Representative Ocasio-Cortez slams Republicans for invoking the $25 trillion federal debt as a reason to restrain government spending. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, right? That's a big federal debt, and we don't want it to grow any more than it has to, but we want to make sure that the government is maintaining its duty to take care of people. So what's wrong with this argument? Because on the face of it, if you don't dig any deeper, then it kind of makes sense. Look, we're already $25 trillion in the hole. Why would we want to keep digging deeper? So one of the things that AOC points out is that this is totally inconsistent, right? It's just that now that the Democrats want to come in and actually take care of human beings, suddenly there's no money for that. So what are we talking about when we say that? Well, let's look at two forever wars that are, being fought in the Middle East. $6 trillion roughly for those wars. $6 trillion could have done us a whole lot of good at home, right? In fact, there's someone even on the Republican side who seems to agree with that idea. So let's take a look here.
The people opposing us are the same people and think of this, who've wasted $6 trillion on wars in the Middle East. We could have rebuilt our country twice. That have produced only more terrorism, more death, more suffering. Imagine if that money had been spent right here in our home. We've totally destabilized the Middle East. And if you think about it, $6 trillion.
That $6 trillion could have been used in much better ways. I absolutely agree, right? I absolutely agree. So you have to have responsible spending, but you also want to spend it on the things that are important, because when you're spending responsibly, you only have so much money to deal with. You got to spend it in the right places, okay? So, one of the things that AOC brings up in that article about her when she was asked is that the Republicans are so interested in the debt. Once they have what they want and the Democrats are trying to get more for actual human beings, and they're being told, no, the debt's too high, the debt's too high. Well, then what was the deal with, a couple of years ago where you cut taxes by $2 trillion, 85% of which went to the top 1%. So you're just giving rich people bigger tax cuts, and then you're saying, hey, look, everyone, the deficit is getting bigger, the debt is growing. What are we going to do about it? What you do about it is don't give billionaires tax cuts. That would be a good start. And another thing, as we're pointing out right here, maybe we don't spend so much on the military. Maybe instead of spending $6 trillion on these wars that in retrospect weren't really a good idea, maybe we could have sent people to college. Maybe we could have done some of these other things that we want to do. Here's the idea. Remember when Bernie Sanders was running and we were told, he was talking about free college tuition for all. It was going to cost around $70 billion a year. And we were told that's unthinkable. How could we ever afford any of that? Well, the military budget that we spend each year is a little over 10 times that much, which means if we cut the military budget by a little over 9%, we could send everyone to college. There's the money right there. We don't have to find new money. Just cut the budget of the military 9%, right? I'm not talking about a 20, 40, 50% cut. I'm talking about around 9%, a little over 9%. Everyone gets to go to college. What would that do for our country? Right? So think about it. We could spend that 9% on military action, or we could spend it on everyone going to college. I would rather live in a country where everybody gets to go to college. Okay, no matter where you're born, the circumstances you're going into, you're a minority born into a poor neighborhood where you're growing up with crime, right? It's very, very difficult to overcome these kind of things. But at least we could have something out there that says, you know what, if you stick with this, when you get to college, it's taken care of for you so that you can lift up your family. You can create a new start for your family where you can achieve the American dream. Isn't that the American dream? But it seems like this crazy idea. Free college, what are you talking about? Well, first of all, many, many countries already do this, where you get into college and it's taken care of. Also, we already have public schools. So K through 12, right, taken care of, right? For at least first through 12, but in most places, K through 12 is taken care of, okay? Why is it so crazy to think that that could be K through 16, where you get another 4 years on the end of it, and then we have a very educated society? I would much rather the people that are sharing the society with me be well educated, understand how things work, have a working understanding of critical thinking that you pick up in your math and philosophy and science classes, a history of this country. So many people right now with the responsibility of voting, that is all of us eligible to vote, have a responsibility to vote in an informed way. So many people don't even know the history of this own country. You hear it on a daily basis talking to people who they don't realize we've done these things before. This whole, the idea of trickle-down economics. Well, we've run that experiment for 40 years. It's a failure, right? It doesn't work. The New Deal. These are kinds of things we've tried out before, and they worked fantastically. We need a working understanding of history. We could get that if people were going to school, okay? That's what I propose. Cut the military budget a little bit and you go, wait, like everyone thinks that like money spent on the military, perfectly fine. You never have to question any of the money that gets spent on the military. Well, why not? I mean, if you look at the geography of the United States, we're pretty secure, right? We've got the oceans on both coasts. It's going to make it pretty hard for someone to invade us that way, considering we have by far the strongest military in the world, right? If you take one of those aircraft carriers that we have, one of those, you just take one, that outdoes most navies and, by the way, most air forces in the entire world, right? Just one of those aircraft carriers, and we've got like a bunch of them, okay? So maybe we could back off on that military spending a little bit, since it doesn't look like anyone's trying to invade our shores, and we could start spending it on the people. We could start spending it on sending people to college so that we have a much more informed electorate, right? This is going to help us when we have elections. This is going to help us. The Republicans are always talking about starting small businesses. Great. If people go to school and get a college education in business, they're going to be much more successful at starting a small business. So right now the question is, do you want to go to college and walk away with $50,000 to $80,000 in debt? Or do you just want to skip college? That shouldn't be the question. Someone out there has an idea. They want to start a small business. Great. Go take some classes or get a credential or get a full degree, whatever. Some kind of, they have certificates, all sorts of stuff that's going to inform you how to run that business better, and then go out and start that business. Great. That's the kind of thing that our colleges should be doing, is bringing everyone in who wants to become better and learn a skill, and then send them out and say, okay, we've given you the education. Now go start your business. Now go be a nurse. Now go be a doctor. Go do whatever you need to do. And we've all bared the cost of that education because we're all going to benefit from it. When that small business does well, that helps the economy. When that nurse does well, that helps our well-being. We have to remember that we are a community here, and we can't just worry about every single dollar being spent. Yeah, in the big picture, we have to worry about spending overall. But there are some things that just appear to be worth it, and college education is one of those. So I don't buy this argument that we can't afford to send everyone to college. We had the $2 trillion tax cut for the rich. How many years at $70 billion a year could we have sent people to college for that? And we just gave that tax cut away for nothing. Got nothing out of it. So let's take a look at a couple statistics here. So let's take a look. The only presidents to reduce the deficit since 1946. Do you notice anything? Does anything pop out at you about these 5 individuals? Notice anything in common? Yeah, I do, right? So it's starting to give you a sense of which party is more responsible with spending and which one isn't. All right, here's another infographic, source taken from the so the values are taken from the Treasury Department. Now, take a look here. Who increased the debt? Okay, so notice that the three individuals who increased the debt the most, Republican, the two individuals who increased the debt the least, Democrat. So this idea that the Republicans are so responsible with spending and it's the Democrats who are just going to cost you a ton of money, it doesn't hold up when you look at the actual facts, right? You can be told this. I was told this from a young age. If you look at it, you go, oh, actually, it seems like the Republicans take care of things, the debt at least, and the deficit spending a little bit more responsibly. Now, one way they do that is that the taxes are increased a bit, right? But that's one thing you have to do. You have to pay for the things that you're spending. So there's the discussion on spending, and then there's the discussion on deficit spending. And look at this one right here. So notice the first Bush right there, right? He didn't raise the deficit as much as the other two, but look what happened to him. He raised taxes because he knew it was the responsible thing to do from a fiscal standpoint. And what happened? They voted him out. They turned on him because he was trying to handle things in a legitimate way. So it really tells you what's going on here. This isn't anything new, right? This whole game has been going on since 1980 when Reagan came on the scene saying, look, we're going to increase the debt, we're going to increase spending, and at the same time, we're going to blame the Democrats for doing it. We're going to say it's the Democrats who did it, which is ridiculous. So you just don't buy into it, right? And part of it, remember, I was talking about military spending. Remember the military a couple of years ago, they were in the budget, they were awarded more money than they asked for. More money than the military was even asking for, they got awarded in their budget. So we don't have money to send people to college, but we have money to give the military more than it asked for. Isn't the military kind of big enough? I mean, do we feel unsafe? Are there people trying to come get us? No. Now, do we have issues that the military could try to handle? Yeah. Right? There are some issues with drugs coming into this country, which probably something should be done about. There are legitimate things that we need to be doing, but the question really comes into play. Should we be all over the world in all of these other countries trying to impose our will when it's not really helping the people of this country, right? I would ask, what the military money that we're spending, is it really helping the people or is it helping Halliburton? Is it helping these companies, these big government contractors, right? What we were warned about in the whole military-industrial complex speech, that situation, is that really helping the common person who's trying to go to work, make a living, take care of themselves? What are we doing here? I would rather, I'll say it again, I would rather cut the military by 9%, send everyone to college. I think it'd be the way to go. Okay, so that's the takeaway from today. Feel free to add in the comments section what you think about that. Could we do with a little less military and a little more college education? I think it would be a nice balance, right? I'm not saying cut the military down to 30%. I'm saying cut it to like 91% of what it currently is and then send everyone to college. Right? You got to think about these in terms because when we start talking about billions of dollars, it's easy to just lose track of it all. So think about it in terms of, like, that's my measuring stick that I use right now when I'm looking at the government. How much would this cost in relation to sending everyone to college? Because those are two big things I'd like to see. Everyone goes to college, everyone has health care. Now, the health care one is going to be a little bit harder to do, but it seems to me like we could, if we got enough support behind it, we could see free college for all, and it wouldn't actually have to be that big of a deal. Right? Free healthcare for all is going to be a big, big change in some major ways. I'm for it. I think we got to work towards it, but free college tuition for everyone, I think, is actually quite doable in the foreseeable future. We just got to get the right support for it. So go ahead, tell me in the comments what you think. What would you rather do? More military spending or sending people to college? Let me know. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can catch all the new videos as they come out, and we will see you in the future.